In a quiet little town surrounded by green hills and open fields, there lived a young girl who was easy to miss. She wasn't the kind of kid who stood out in a crowd. In fact, most people barely noticed her at all. This shy 8-year-old spent her days quietly observing the world around her, preferring to stay in the background rather than draw attention to herself. Her name was Lily, but to many of her classmates she was just that quiet girl. Lily didn't mind being overlooked too much. She had her own ways of finding joy, in books and drawing pictures, and especially in music. At home she loved listening to old songs her grandmother played on an ancient record player. Those melodies felt like magic to her, filling her small room with warmth and comfort. Sometimes when no one was around, she'd hum along softly, letting the tunes carry her away. But outside of her safe space, Lily rarely spoke up or shared this part of herself. It wasn't that she didn't want to. It was more that she didn't think anyone would care. At school, things were different. While some kids thrived under the spotlight, Lily preferred to blend into the walls. Unfortunately, blending in didn't always mean escaping notice. Some of her classmates found her shyness amusing and teased her for it. They'd whispered jokes about how she could barely raise her hand in class without looking nervous, let alone do anything bold like sing or perform. To them, Lily seemed like the least likely person to ever stand out in any way. One crisp autumn afternoon, as the leaves turned golden and fell gently from the trees, something unexpected happened. The school was buzzing with excitement because the annual recital was coming up. Every year, students prepared acts, songs, dances, skits, and performed them in front of the whole school and their families. It was a big deal, and everyone wanted to be part of it. Well, almost everyone. Mrs. Harper, the kind-hearted music teacher, was busy organizing the event. She was known for encouraging even the shyest students to participate, believing that everyone had a talent waiting to shine. But this year, she faced a problem. 2 students who were supposed to perform had dropped out at the last minute, leaving a gap in the program. With the recital only a few days away, Mrs. Harper needed a quick solution. As she sat in her classroom trying to figure out what to do, her eyes landed on Lily, who was sitting quietly at her desk, sketching in her notebook. A thought popped into Mrs. Harper's head, a playful, almost mischievous idea. Turning to the class, she said with a smile, "You know, maybe we should ask Lily to sing." The room instantly erupted in laughter. Kids giggled and exchanged glances, thinking it was a joke. After all, Lily, sing? That seemed impossible to them. Even Lily looked startled, her cheeks turning pink as she sunk lower into her chair. But Mrs. Harper wasn't laughing. Instead, she walked over to Lily and knelt beside her desk. In a soft voice, she asked, "Would you like to give it a try?" For a moment, Lily hesitated. Her heart raced at the thought of standing in front of everyone, singing where everyone could hear. What if they laughed again? What if she messed up? But then she looked into Mrs. Harper's warm, encouraging eyes. There was no mockery there, only genuine belief. Slowly, Lily nodded. She didn't know why she agreed. It felt like a mix of curiosity and trust. But deep down, she wanted to prove to herself that she could try, even if it scared her. Little did Lily know this simple decision would set off a chain of events that none of them could have predicted. For now, though, she kept her promise to Mrs. Harper and began practicing in secret. Alone in her room, she sang softly, unsure if anyone would ever truly hear her voice. Meanwhile, the rest of the school continued to buzz with anticipation, not because they believed in her, but because they couldn't wait to see what might happen next. After Mrs. Harper's surprising suggestion, the news spread like wildfire through the school corridors. By lunchtime, everyone was talking about it. "Did you hear? That quiet girl is going to sing at the recital." The whispers followed Lily wherever she went, and they weren't exactly kind. Some kids snickered behind her back, while others openly mocked her. "She can't even talk loudly in class," one boy said with a smirk. "How's she supposed to sing?" Another chimed in, laughing as if it were the funniest thing they'd ever heard. Lily tried her best to ignore them, but their words stung. She didn't blame them for doubting her. After all, she doubted herself too. Singing in front of an Audience felt like standing on the edge of a cliff ready to jump into unknown waters. Still, something inside her refused to back down. Maybe it was the memory of Mrs. Harper's encouraging smile or the tiny flicker of hope that had sparked when she agreed to try. Whatever it was, it kept her going. At home, things were a little different. When Lily told her parents about what had happened, they exchanged worried glances. Her dad scratched his head and said, "Are you sure about this, sweetheart? You've never sung in front of anyone before." Her mom added gently, "We just don't want you to get hurt if people laugh." Their concern wasn't mean-spirited. They loved Lily deeply and only wanted to protect her from potential embarrassment. But instead of discouraging her, their words made her more determined. "I know I'm not good," Lily admitted softly, staring at her feet. "But maybe I could be better if I practice." Her parents exchanged another look, this time filled with pride. They saw how hard she was trying, even though fear weighed heavily on her shoulders. So they decided to support her fully. Her mom dug out an old karaoke machine from the attic, and her dad helped set it up in the living room. Together, they created a makeshift stage, a corner of the house where Lily could rehearse without feeling judged. Every evening after dinner, Lily practiced. At first, her voice trembled, wavering between notes like a leaf caught in the wind. She stumbled over lyrics and sometimes forgot entire lines, but she kept going hour after hour until her throat grew sore. Her grandmother, who lived nearby, often stopped by to listen. One evening, as Lily sang a slow, heartfelt tune, her grandmother leaned back in her chair, closing her eyes. When the song ended, she opened them again and said, "You have a gift, my dear. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Those words stayed with Lily long after her grandmother left. For the first time, she started to believe that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't completely hopeless. It wasn't perfection she was chasing, it was courage. Courage to step onto that stage and share a piece of herself no matter what happened afterward. Meanwhile, the rest of the school buzzed with anticipation, not the positive kind, but the sort that comes from expecting disaster. Some kids couldn't wait to see Lily fail because it would give them something to laugh about. Others were curious, wondering if she'd actually show up on the night of the recital. Even the teachers seemed skeptical, though most of them kept their opinions to themselves. Only Mrs. Harper remained steadfast in her belief. She checked in on Lily regularly, offering tips and encouragement whenever she could. One afternoon, during recess, a group of classmates cornered Lily near the swings. "So, are you really going to sing?" one of them asked, grinning mockingly. "What song did you pick, something babyish?" Another chimed in, "Yeah, we're all waiting to hear your big performance." Their teasing cut deep, but Lily stood her ground. Looking straight at them, she said quietly, "I'm going to do my best. That's all I can promise." Her calm response threw them off guard. For a moment, there was silence. Then one of the kids muttered, "Whatever," and walked away, leaving Lily alone. As she watched them go, she felt a strange sense of relief. She realized that their opinions didn't define her. What mattered was how she chose to face this challenge for herself, not for them. As the days passed, Lily continued to rehearse. Slowly but surely, her confidence began to grow. She still felt nervous, of course, but the fear wasn't overwhelming anymore. Instead, it mingled with excitement, a spark of curiosity about what might happen when she finally stepped onto the stage. Each note she sang became a step forward, each lyric a reminder that she was capable of more than she'd ever imagined. Back at school, the countdown to the recital was in full swing. Posters decorated the hallways and students buzzed with energy as they prepared their acts. For Lily, the atmosphere was bittersweet. On one hand, she felt the weight of everyone's expectations, or rather, their lack of faith in her. On the other hand, she sensed that something bigger was brewing. Whether it turned out to be triumph or failure, she knew this experience would change her life in some way. The day before the recital, Mrs. Harper pulled Lily aside after class. Handing her a sheet of music, she said, "This is the song I picked, for you. It's simple, but it has heart. Just remember, you don't have to impress anyone, just sing like you're singing for yourself." Lily took the paper and nodded, clutching it tightly as she walked home. That night, as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, she replayed those words in her mind. Sing like you're singing for yourself. For the first time, she allowed herself to dream, to imagine what it might feel like to stand under the spotlight and let her voice soar. She didn't know yet how the story would end, but she was ready to find out, and deep down she hoped that somehow her voice might surprise even her. The morning of the recital dawned bright and clear, with the sun casting golden rays over the quiet little town. The air buzzed with excitement as families and friends gathered at the school auditorium, eager to see what the students had prepared. Inside the building, the hallways were alive with chatter, laughter, and last-minute rehearsals. Students hurried back and forth, adjusting costumes, practicing lines, and trying to calm their nerves. For most of them, this was just another school event, but for Lily it felt like the biggest moment of her life. Backstage, the atmosphere was a mix of chaos and anticipation. Kids peeked through the curtains at the growing crowd, whispering nervously about who might be watching. Some performers paced back and forth, while others huddled together, sharing jokes to ease the tension. Amidst all the commotion, Lily sat, quietly in a corner, clutching the microphone she'd been handed earlier. Her heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. She tried to focus on her breathing, just like Mrs. Harper had taught her, but it was difficult. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw flashes of worst-case scenarios, forgetting the lyrics, stumbling over the notes, or worse, hearing laughter from the audience. Her classmates weren't helping either. A group of them stood nearby, giggling and glancing in her direction. "She's really going through with it," one of them said, shaking their head in disbelief. Another chimed in, "This is going to be hilarious." Their words stung, even though Lily told herself not to let them get to her. She reminded herself of what her grandmother had said, that she had a gift, and clung to that thought like a lifeline. Still, doubt crept in, whispering cruelly that maybe they were right. Maybe she was making a mistake. Mrs. Harper noticed Lily sitting alone and walked over, crouching down beside her. "How are you feeling?" she asked gently, placing a reassuring hand on Lily's shoulder. Lily hesitated before answering. "I'm scared," she admitted softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Mrs. Harper smiled warmly. "That's okay. Being scared means you care, and caring is what makes your performance special. Just remember, no matter what happens out, I believe in you." Those simple words meant more to Lily than she could express. For weeks, people had doubted her. Even her own classmates had laughed at the idea of her singing. But here was Mrs. Harper, standing firmly by her side, offering unwavering support. It gave Lily the courage to take a deep breath and nod. "Okay," she said quietly, though her hands still trembled around the microphone. Finally, it was time for the show to begin. The lights dimmed, and the auditorium fell silent as the principal stepped onto the stage to welcome everyone. Parents leaned forward in their seats, holding cameras ready to capture every moment. Teachers exchanged knowing smiles, proud of how much effort their students had put into the event. And backstage, the performers waited anxiously for their turn. One by one, the acts took the stage. There were dancers twirling gracefully in colorful costumes, comedians delivering punchlines that earned bursts of laughter, and musicians strumming guitars or playing piano melodies. Each performance was met with polite applause, but nothing truly electrified the room. The audience seemed entertained, but not captivated. That changed when the announcer called out Lily's name. "For our next act," he said into the microphone, "please welcome Lily, who will be singing for us tonight." A ripple of murmurs swept through the auditorium. People turned to each other, curious and slightly confused. "Wait, her," someone whispered. Backstage, Lily froze. Her legs felt like they'd turned to stone, refusing to move. Mrs. Harper gave her an encouraging nudge, whispering, "You've got this. Just walk out there." Summoning every ounce of bravery she had, Lily stepped onto the stage. The spotlight hit her instantly, blinding her for a moment. She blinked against the brightness, squinting to make out the sea of faces staring back at her. Rows upon rows of eyes watched silently, waiting to see what would happen next. In that moment, Lily felt smaller than ever before. But then she remembered something her mom had told her. Sometimes being brave doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you do it anyway. Taking a shaky step forward, Lily adjusted the microphone stand and gripped it tightly. Her hands were slick with sweat, and her knees wobbled beneath her dress. She glanced toward the wings of the stage where Mrs. Harper stood, giving her a thumbs up and mouthing, "You can do it." Swallowing hard, Lily closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened her mouth to sing, the first note floated, out hesitantly, trembling like a leaf caught in a breeze. The audience shifted uncomfortably, unsure of what to expect. But then something remarkable happened. As Lily continued, her voice steadied, growing stronger and clearer with each passing second. It wasn't perfect, it wavered slightly at times, and she stumbled briefly over a high note. But it didn't matter. What mattered was the emotion behind it. Her voice carried a depth and sincerity that resonated deeply, filling the auditorium with an almost magical quality. By the time she reached the chorus, the entire room had fallen silent. No one moved, no one spoke. Even the kids backstage stopped giggling and peeked through the curtain, their mouths hanging open in shock. Lily's voice soared, rich and pure, weaving its way into the hearts of everyone listening. Tears welled up in some parents' eyes while others leaned forward, completely entranced. For those few minutes, nothing else existed. The world outside faded away, leaving only Lily and her song. When the final note rang out, there was a beat of stunned silence. Then, like a wave crashing against the shore, the audience erupted into applause. At first it was scattered, hesitant, as if people couldn't quite believe what they'd just witnessed. But soon, the clapping grew louder and more unified, echoing throughout the auditorium. Cheers broke out, and several people jumped to their feet, giving Lily a standing ovation. Lily stood frozen under the spotlight, her chest rising and falling, rapidly as she struggled to process what was happening. Was this real? Had she really done it? Before she could fully grasp the moment, Mrs. Harper rushed onto the stage, tears streaming down her face. Without saying a word, she pulled Lily into a tight hug, rocking her gently as if to say, "I knew you could do it." For the first time in her life, Lily felt seen, not as the shy girl who blended into the background, but as someone who had something valuable to offer. As she looked out at the cheering crowd, she realized that this wasn't just about singing. It was about finding her voice, not just the one she used to sing, but the one she used to speak up, to believe in herself, and to show the world who she truly was. And in that moment, everything changed. The applause didn't stop right away. It lingered, filling the auditorium like a warm embrace, wrapping itself around Lily and refusing to let go. For someone who had spent most of her life feeling invisible, this sudden wave of attention was overwhelming, but not in the way she'd expected. Instead of fear or discomfort, she felt something else, a quiet sense of pride, as if she'd finally unlocked a part of herself that had been waiting patiently to come out. As Mrs. Harper guided her off the stage, Lily's classmates were silent, for once. They stared at her with wide eyes, their earlier teasing forgotten, or maybe swallowed whole by shock. One girl whispered to another, "I can't believe how good she is." A boy standing nearby nodded slowly, his arms crossed over his chest. "Yeah, I didn't think she could do it either," he admitted gruffly, though there was a hint of admiration in his voice. Even the kids who had mocked her backstage now looked unsure, as if they weren't quite sure what to say, or whether they should apologize. But Lily didn't dwell on any of that. Her mind was still racing, replaying every second of her performance. She remembered the way her voice had trembled at first, how scared she'd been that people would laugh. And then she thought about the exact moment when everything shifted. The instant she realized the audience wasn't laughing at her but listening. That realization had given her strength, allowing her to pour her heart into the song without holding back. Now walking through the crowded hallway after the show, she felt lighter, as if a weight she hadn't even noticed before had been lifted from her shoulders. Her parents found her almost immediately. Her mom wrapped her in a tight hug, tears streaming down her face. "We're so proud of you," she said, her voice cracking with emotion. Her dad stood behind them, beaming, his hands resting on her shoulders. "You did amazing, kiddo. Absolutely amazing." Their words meant more to Lily than anything else. More than the applause, more than the compliments from strangers. She had always known they loved her, but seeing how genuinely happy they were for her made her feel like she could conquer the world. Word of Lily's performance spread quickly. By the next morning, it seemed like everyone in town knew about the shy girl who had stunned the school recital crowd with her voice. Parents talked about it over coffee, teachers mentioned it in staff meetings, and students couldn't stop discussing it during recess. Some kids approached Lily hesitantly, offering awkward congratulations. You were really good," one boy said, shuffling his feet nervously. Another girl handed her a handmade card that read, "Your singing made me cry." It was signed simply, "From your classmate." At first, Lily didn't know how to respond. She wasn't used to being the center of attention, and all these new interactions left her feeling both grateful and a little uneasy. But as the days went by, she began to adjust. Slowly, she started opening up more, not just about her singing, but about other things too. She raised her hand in class when she knew the answer, joined group projects without hesitation, and even laughed along with jokes during lunch. The change wasn't dramatic. It wasn't like she became the loudest or most outgoing kid overnight, but it was noticeable. People started treating her differently, not because they pitied her or felt guilty, but because they saw her in a new light. One day, Mrs. Harper pulled Lily aside after music class. "You've got something special," she said, her eyes twinkling with excitement. "Have you ever thought about doing more with your singing? Maybe joining a choir or entering a competition?" Lily blinked, surprised by the suggestion. Singing had always been something private, something she did alone in her room. The idea of sharing it with others beyond the school recital felt daunting but also thrilling. "I don't know," Lily admitted, fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. "What if I mess up again?" Mrs. Harper smiled gently. "Messing up is part of learning, sweetheart. You proved that at the recital. Remember how nervous you were? And look what happened. You blew everyone away. Don't let fear stop you from trying new things." Those words stuck with Lily long after the conversation ended. Over the next few weeks, she decided to take small steps outside her comfort zone. She signed up for the school choir, where she discovered the joy of harmonizing with others. She practiced harder than ever before, determined to improve. And when the local community center announced a talent showcase, she mustered the courage to sign up, even though her stomach churned with nerves. The night of the showcase arrived faster than Lily expected. This time, however, the fear wasn't paralyzing. It was manageable, tempered by the knowledge that she'd faced worse and come out stronger. Standing backstage, she glanced around at the other performers. Some were seasoned singers, while others were amateurs like her. There was no mocking laughter here, only shared anticipation. When her name was called, she walked onto the stage with steady steps, gripping the microphone tightly but confidently. Once again, her voice filled the room, clear and powerful. Once again, the audience listened intently, captivated by the raw emotion in her performance, and once again when she finished, the applause thundered through the venue. But this time, Lily didn't freeze under the spotlight. Instead, she smiled, a genuine, radiant smile, and gave a small bow before leaving the stage. Afterward, several people approached her to congratulate her. A woman introduced herself as a local radio host and handed Lily her business card saying, "If you ever want to record something, give me a call." Another man, who identified himself as a music teacher, offered to give her free lessons. These offers overwhelmed Lily at first, but they also ignited a spark of hope within her. Maybe singing wasn't just a hobby. It could be something bigger, something she could pursue with passion and purpose. Back home, Lily sat cross-legged on her bed, staring at the stack of cards and notes people had given her. Her grandmother sat beside her, humming softly as she flipped through an old photo album. "Life has a funny way of surprising us," her grandmother said after a while. "Sometimes the moments we dread the most turn out to be the ones that change everything." Lily nodded thoughtfully. She thought about how far she'd come since that day in Mrs. Harper's classroom, when the idea of singing in public seemed impossible. She thought about the teasing, the doubts, and the fear, and how none of those things mattered anymore. What mattered was that she had taken a chance, trusted herself, and discovered something incredible in the process. As she drifted off to sleep that night, Lily promised herself one thing: she wouldn't let fear hold her back again. Not from singing, not from making friends, and certainly not from chasing dreams she hadn't even dared to dream yet. Because now she knew the truth, that sometimes the smallest voices carry the biggest messages. And hers? Hers was just beginning to be heard. As the weeks turned into months, Lily's life began to transform in ways she never could have imagined. The shy girl who once blended into the background was now becoming someone people noticed, not just for her voice, but for the quiet confidence she carried with her. It wasn't an overnight change. It happened gradually, like the first rays of sunlight breaking through a cloudy sky. Each new opportunity gave her a little more courage, and each challenge helped her grow stronger. The local talent showcase had been just the beginning. After that night, doors started opening for Lily. The radio host who'd given her a business card invited her to record a short segment for the station. At first, Lily hesitated. Sitting in a studio with headphones on felt strange compared to performing live. What if she made a mistake? What if her voice didn't sound as good on air? But Mrs. Harper encouraged her to give it a try, reminding her that every great singer had to start somewhere. So, one Saturday morning, Lily walked into the small recording booth, her heart pounding. When the engineer pressed record, she closed her eyes and sang as if no one else was listening. By the time she finished, even the seasoned professionals in the control room were smiling. When the clip aired later that week, the response was overwhelming. Listeners flooded the station with calls and messages, praising Lily's voice and asking for more. Some said they'd teared up while listening, while others called her a hidden gem and urged her to keep singing. For Lily, reading those comments was surreal. She still found it hard to believe that strangers, people she'd never met, were moved by something she did. But their words reminded her why she loved music. It connected people in ways words alone couldn't. Encouraged by the positive feedback, Lily decided to take another step forward. With the help of her parents and Mrs. Harper, she signed up for a regional singing competition. Competitions were a whole different ballgame. They weren't just about singing well. They were about performing under pressure, impressing judges, and standing out among talented contestants. The thought terrified Lily, but deep down she knew she wanted to push herself further. If she could conquer her fear at the school recital, surely she could handle this too. The day of the competition arrived, and Lily stood backstage, clutching her song sheet tightly. Her stomach churned with nerves, but she reminded herself of everything she'd learned so far. She thought about how far she'd come since that day in Mrs. Harper's classroom, the teasing, the doubts, the moments of self-doubt, and realized she'd already proven she was stronger than she thought. As the other participants took the stage one by one, Lily watched intently, studying their techniques and drawing inspiration from their performances. When her turn finally came, she stepped onto the stage with steady steps, her chin held high. Her performance earned her second place in the competition, a huge accomplishment for someone so young. While she didn't win first prize, the experience taught her valuable lessons about perseverance and resilience. More importantly, it showed her that success wasn't always about winning. Sometimes it was about showing up, giving your best, and learning along the way. But Lily's journey didn't stop there. As word of her talent spread, opportunities continued to come her way. Local churches invited her to sing at community events, schools asked her to perform at assemblies, and charities requested her participation in fundraisers. At first, Lily worried about balancing these commitments with schoolwork, but her teachers were supportive, helping her manage her schedule. They saw how much joy singing brought her and wanted to ensure she didn't miss out on anything important. Through all of this, Lily remained humble. She never let fame, or what little bit of it she experienced, go to her head. Instead, she used her growing platform to inspire others. Whenever she performed, she shared stories about her own struggles with shyness and fear, encouraging kids who felt invisible to find their voices too. After one particularly moving performance at a youth center, a boy approached her shyly and said, "I want to sing like you someday." Lily smiled warmly and replied, "You can do it. Just believe in yourself." Her family played a big role in keeping her grounded. Her mom often reminded her that being kind mattered more than being famous, while her dad joked that he'd better get used to seeing his daughter on stage. Her grandmother, ever the wise storyteller, would sit with her on lazy afternoons, sharing tales of musicians who had overcome obstacles to follow their dreams. "Life isn't always easy," her grandmother would say, "but the people who shine brightest are the ones who keep going, no matter what." Despite her newfound confidence, Lily still faced challenges. There were days when self-doubt crept back in, whispering cruel reminders of how far she still had to go. Sometimes critics left harsh comments online, questioning whether she deserved the attention she was getting. On those days, Lily leaned on the people who believed in her most, her family, Mrs. Harper, and her closest friends. Their unwavering support reminded her that setbacks were part of the journey and that she shouldn't let negativity define her. One of the biggest turning points came when Lily was invited to perform at a benefit concert for underprivileged children. Standing on stage in front of hundreds of families, she sang a heartfelt ballad about hope and resilience. As she poured her soul into the lyrics, she noticed something remarkable happening in the audience. Parents wiped away tears. Children clapped enthusiastically and volunteers cheered loudly. Afterward, a woman approached her holding a young girl's hand. "My daughter is very shy, like you used to be," the woman said, her voice trembling with emotion. "Seeing you tonight gives me hope that she'll find her strength too." That moment stayed with Lily long after the concert ended. It made her realize that her journey wasn't just about her, it was about inspiring others to believe in themselves, just as Mrs. Harper and her family had done for her. From then on, she made it a point to visit schools and community centers regularly, mentoring young artists and leading workshops for kids who lacked access to music education. She wanted them to know that everyone had a gift waiting to be discovered, even if they didn't see it yet. By the time Lily entered middle school, she was no longer the quiet girl hiding in the shadows. She had grown into a confident, compassionate, young performer who inspired those around her. Yet despite all the changes, some things remained the same. She still loved listening to her grandmother's old records, still practiced tirelessly in her room, and still valued the simple joys of life over fame or recognition. Looking back, Lily understood that her journey hadn't been about proving herself to anyone. It had been about finding her voice and using it to make a difference. And though she knew there would be more challenges ahead, she also knew she was ready to face them. Because now, she believed in herself. And that belief was stronger than any fear she might encounter. Years passed, and the little girl who once stood trembling on a school stage grew into a young woman with a voice that touched hearts across towns, cities, and even countries. Lily never forgot where her journey began. The quiet classroom, the teasing classmates, the encouraging smile of Mrs. Harper, and the spotlight that had seemed so terrifying at first. Those moments stayed with her, shaping not just her career but also her character. She often said in interviews, "I didn't choose music, music chose me." And it was true. Her path hadn't been planned or predictable, but it had led her exactly where she was meant to be. By the time she graduated high school, Lily's name was well known in her community and beyond. She had performed at festivals, charity events, and even small concerts in neighboring states. Her songs weren't just melodies, they carried stories of hope, resilience, and courage. People connected with them because they reflected real emotions, raw struggles, and the beauty of finding light in darkness. Fans would approach her after shows, sharing their own stories of overcoming fear or loneliness. Some told her how her performances had inspired them to pursue dreams they'd long abandoned. Others simply thanked her for reminding them that they weren't alone. Every word of gratitude reinforced Lily's belief that her gift wasn't just for herself, it was for others too. Despite her growing success, Lily remained deeply rooted in her hometown. She returned frequently, organizing workshops for kids who didn't have access to music education. In an old community center with peeling paint and creaky floors, she taught eager students how to find their rhythm, hit the right notes, and most importantly, express themselves through song. To her, these sessions were more meaningful than any grand performance. Watching shy children blossom into confident performers reminded her of her own journey. It was like looking into a mirror, seeing fragments of her younger self in each wide-eyed face. One particular workshop stands out in her memory. A boy about 10 years old sat in the back corner, clutching a beat-up guitar he barely knew how to play. His hands shook every time he tried to strum and his voice cracked when he attempted to sing. The other kids giggled nervously, unsure of what to make of him, but Lily knelt beside him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You don't have to be perfect," she told him softly. "Just let your heart guide you." Over the next few weeks, she worked closely with him, teaching him chords and encouraging him to sing louder. By the end of the program, he performed a short piece in front of the group, his confidence shining brighter than anyone expected. As he bowed awkwardly to polite applause, Lily saw tears glistening in his eyes. He ran up to her afterward, grinning, ear to ear, and whispered, "Thank you for believing in me." Moments like these fueled Lily's passion for mentoring. She believed that everyone deserved a chance to shine, regardless of their background or circumstances. Inspired by her grandmother's wisdom and Mrs. Harper's kindness, she started a foundation aimed at providing free music lessons to underprivileged children. Donations poured in from fans and supporters, allowing her to expand the program to multiple towns. Teachers, musicians, and volunteers joined her cause, creating a network of people dedicated to nurturing young talent. Together, they transformed rundown spaces into vibrant hubs of creativity, filling them with laughter, music, and dreams. Even as her career took off, Lily made sure to honor the people who had shaped her journey. Mrs. Harper, now retired, attended nearly all of Lily's concerts, sitting proudly in the front row. After one particularly emotional performance, Lily invited her on stage and handed her a bouquet of flowers. "This is for you," she said, her voice thick with emotion, "because none of this would have happened without your belief in me." The audience erupted into applause as Mrs. Harper hugged her tightly, tears streaming down both their faces. It was a moment neither of them would ever forget, a testament to the power of encouragement and trust. Lily's grandmother, though frail with age, remained her biggest cheerleader. On special occasions, she'd sit in her rocking chair, listening intently as Lily sang her favorite tunes. One evening, after a heartfelt rendition of a classic ballad, her grandmother leaned back and sighed contentedly. "You've come such a long way," she said, her eyes twinkling with pride. "But remember, sweetheart, it's not about the applause or the fame. It's about the lives you touch along the way." Those words echoed in Lily's mind long after her grandmother passed away, becoming a guiding principle for everything she did. As the years went by, Lily continued to evolve, as an artist and as a person. She experimented with new styles, collaborated with other musicians, and wrote original songs that resonated with diverse audiences. Yet, no matter how much her sound changed, her message remained constant. Believe in yourself, embrace your uniqueness, and use your gifts to uplift others. Her concerts became celebrations of hope and unity, drawing crowds of all ages and backgrounds. Strangers left feeling like family, united by the shared experience of witnessing something truly magical.